the social issue that we felt was most prevalent in our community is that freshmen at Seattle University are not properly informed about consent and rape culture within the college community.
So our first question to pretty much anybody out there was, how prepared were you when you were coming into college? You're a high school senior, really excited, and you're ready to go. And how prepared did you feel coming from your specific background? And did you consider all the things that could happen to you as a college freshman? And did you really feel ready to take on all these new social situations on your own?
We want you guys to just think about how you were prepared. How were you taught? Were you even taught about?
Good evening. The library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you have materials to check out, please bring them to the circulation desk on the 3rd floor at this time.
Oh.
Our circulation desk will be shutting down in 15 minutes to prepare for building closure. The library will close shortly.
Oh my god.
Thank you.
Okay. Back at it. Okay, so we just want you guys to think about how prepared you were and whether you were even taught things that
Made you prepared.
yeah.
So yeah, take a second and think about how prepared were you?
Because you're probably not as prepared as you thought.
There are a lot of things that incoming freshmen are still getting used to when they're entering college. You're completely making your own rules. You don't have a curfew. You don't have a bedtime. You can eat whatever you want for dinner. You can not go to class if you don't wake up on time. You're setting all these rules for yourself, and you're unfamiliar with what your limits are.
Yeah, you don't know, you've always had a guideline before you can't go to college, and now you're just completely on your own, and you are making your own guideline. You are setting your own boundaries and setting your own limits, and you're not really told how to do those things, and that's something that you have to figure out on your own in college, and a lot of people maybe aren't prepared to do that or mature enough to make those decisions.
You're completely unaware of what those consequences could be for you. It's kind of detrimental if you're not really familiar with your boundaries and your limits. So if you don't know what those are, it could affect you negatively.
And the people around you.
Yeah.
So in high school, you generally have some sort of support system, whether that be a sports team or a teacher or a club that you're in or your friends or your family. There's people looking out for you and people there helping you and helping you make decisions and helping you guide you in the right direction. And we recognize that those are generalizations and that's not the situation for everyone, but we feel that most people have at least one person in their life that's there all the time to help them out. And in college, that's not always the case, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, you definitely don't have people that you can go home to that you're super comfortable with. You're not going home to your family or going home to people that you know really well. Or
you don't have people regularly checking in on you at the beginning of college to making sure you're making the right decisions and going in the right direction.
So yeah, you're really on your own, and you leave your familiar home environment for something that's completely brand new. You don't know what it's like in our school's culture yet. You don't have a big group of friends that are really concerned about your well-being. You're kind of just making it up as you go along, and you're kind of forced to adjust to this new environment really quickly and
without any background information on how to do that. And this is where a lot of issues around rape and sexual assault and also just bad decisions in regards to partying and drinking happen, because you come to college and you're like, yay, I'm on my own, I can do it, I have no one telling me what to do, and that can be a negative thing for a lot of people and can affect a lot of people in a negative way. And so you're just...
Yeah, that freedom can sometimes just be harmful to a lot of people if you're not careful. So, and the thing that we wanted to point out was that you can know everything that you're supposed to do to prevent yourself from certain situations like sexual assault, and that can't always save you. Coming into college, at least for the two of us, we were talking about how we're still kind of naive about like sexual assault, and how even though we know that it exists and we know that we need to take a lot of precautions to prevent ourselves from being in those types of situations, people still think that, oh, like, this isn't going to happen to me. I know that I could get myself out of a sticky situation like that because I make smart choices. But in reality, if you're thrown into a situation like that, you don't know how you're going to react, and you don't know the right ways to kind of protect yourself in reality. And we're told all the time to be safe and to be careful. Like, your mom and dad or your parents let you know, like, this is like, make sure you're going out with your friends and make sure you're safe and you know what you're doing, and you can follow all those steps and you could still be completely taken advantage of, I guess.
Okay, so our solution to this issue is to create a mandatory class for every student at Seattle University within the first or second quarter that will inform us about consent, sexual assault, and how to handle the new lifestyle that you're thrown into.
So the class would really focus on awareness of things like rape culture and knowledge on certain types of things that we've been talking about in class, like gender stereotyping, victim blaming, slut shaming, all those types of things that people know about but don't really
know real life situations about it either, or don't know how to like recognize it in their kind of daily lives in college. So we think that freshmen have a lack of exposure unless they're put in a dangerous situation. So we want to we want a part of this class to expose them to situations or that they could potentially be in. So we feel like the hunting ground was a really effective way that taught us and showed us real life situations in regard to rape culture and consent in college. So that's definitely something we want to include in the class. And then a handy toolkit. So this includes just ways on how to kind of interact with people and how to deal with going to a party, or how to deal with drinking, or whether you're uncomfortable or not, and how to just kind of give you ways in which to deal with those situations that you may have never had to deal with before.
The last thing that I think our class would touch up on are definitely the university resources that are available to students who are possibly in these situations. Right now, we are aware that there's things on campus that we could go to, but they're not really clear on where to go, who you'd be talking to. It'd be something that I know at least for myself, I'd have to look up and I'd have to put extra energy into if I was ever to be in one of these situations. And I think that by having that out in the open in the class, it would make it really effective and less challenging for someone maybe to come forward and talk about it.
Yeah. So we are given a few activities and information sessions on consent and rape, but we don't feel that they're as effective as a class could be.
In July or August, whenever you go to your summer in Seattle session as an incoming freshman, they have an hour session about rape and alcohol use and things of that nature. And I personally felt like it was a good conversation. I think that it was really involved and they did a good job at making people think about these possibilities. But in reality, in summer in Seattle, people aren't focusing on what rape is and how to drink and all those types of things, because they're more focused on being in this room with all of these people that they're going to be going to school with. And people aren't focused on important topics like rape and sexual consent and alcohol use.
And then we also had to do an activity right before you came to school, the online alcohol and drug and consent activity. And although we both felt like that was effective, there were a few things that weren't effective, and that was the timing of it. It was again in the summer. Everyone's focused on coming to college, meeting new people. They're also nervous. Their attention was not all on that video. And it also was kind of unrealistic, and we couldn't relate to it yet. And I think if we did it,
At least
if we could follow up with it, it would be more beneficial to the freshman students.
Then we're talking about later in the year, more like October. People have kind of forgotten about the types of things that they were learning about in the beginning of the year. Like, yeah, it's great that we talk about those things in the summer leading up to your college, your first year in college, but in reality, nobody goes back to those topics ever again. You might see a couple visuals, but in reality, there's barely any of those.
Yeah, so we think if there should be more visual things around campus, whether it be posters or stickers or whatever, that just remind you about consent and sexual assault and just things that are realistic and are real issues that happen in college and we need to be aware of.
So our idea overall educates people on these really important issues. By involving students in these discussions in a classroom setting, people they are able to not only be informed, but they're considering their topics in their daily lives. If our class was really offered like a UCOR, that was as mandatory as like a writing class for freshmen, you'd be forced to take it either your first quarter or your second quarter, and it would really get people talking about it, and it would be something that people that are constantly thinking about. If you're in a class that is talking about consent and rape culture and all these types of things, you're constantly thinking about all these things, or they're at least in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and everyone will be on the same page too. So I feel like everyone that has taken this class is now so much more educated than kids who haven't, and we both agree that everyone needs to be on the same page about this issue and about consent and sexual assault, because it is so prevalent in so many schools and it is a big issue and it's not talked about and it's not looked at as important as it should be. Yeah, so thank you.
Bye.